You're standing in line at a coffee shop. It's maybe $4, maybe up 5 with a tip. And for some reason, you pause. You actually think about it. Meanwhile, last month, you booked a flight without blinking. Dropped $200 on shoes. Paid for a subscription you forgot you even had. But this coffee, this one small thing, feels like a decision. That's not a personal flaw. That's not you being broke or anxious for no reason. That's your brain doing something very specific. And once you understand what it is, you'll never look at a small purchase the same way again. Hey, I am Hughie, and this one's going to feel uncomfortably familiar. I've been in markets long enough, crypto, forex, years of wins and a fair share of losses, to know that the way we feel about money is almost never logical. And that gap between feeling and logic, that's where most people quietly lose. If any of this is already sounding too real, you probably want to stick around. So let's start with the obvious question. Why does an $8 purchase feel heavier than an $800 one? On paper, that makes no sense. $8 is objectively less money. The math is simple, but the feeling is backwards. And here's what's actually happening. When you make a large purchase, your brain registers it as an event. It feels significant, planned, justified. You booked the flight because you needed a break. You bought the shoes because it was a special occasion. You signed up for the course because it was an investment. There's always a story attached. Big purchases come with built-in justification, but a coffee, a snack, a small top-up on your transit card, there's no story there, no occasion, no justification, and without a story, your brain defaults to scrutiny. It starts asking, do I actually need this? Is this a bad habit? Is this why I'm not saving? The smaller the purchase, the louder that voice gets. Now layer on what's actually happening in the world right now. In 2024, the average person's cost of living went up significantly. Rent, groceries, utilities, insurance, everything that used to be background noise became a line item you actually notice. And wages? They moved, but not at the same pace, so even people earning decent money found themselves doing the same thing, checking the account more often, doing the mental math before buying something small, feeling a low level of financial anxiety that never quite goes away. That anxiety doesn't care how much you earn. It's a response to uncertainty. And right now, there's a lot of uncertainty. So here's where it gets interesting. That anxiety gets attached to the most visible spending. The stuff you can see in real time, the tap of your card at a cafe, the impulse buy at checkout, the takeaway that wasn't in the plan. These are the purchases that feel controllable, so they become the target. But the big spending, the annual subscriptions, the insurance renewals, the rent increases, the debt repayments quietly leaving your account each month, those feel fixed, inevitable, out of your hands, so you don't fight them. You just absorb them, and you redirect all your financial anxiety toward the coffee. There's a term for this in behavioral economics. It's called the small amounts bias, but forget the label. Here's what it actually means. We are wired to notice and scrutinize small, frequent transactions more than large, infrequent ones. A $10 lunch feels irresponsible. A $1,200 phone feels like a one-time thing. A daily coffee adds up to maybe $150 a month. That's real money. But the subscriptions you haven't checked in 6 months? A 2023 study found the average person underestimates their monthly subscription spending by nearly 80%. Not 20, not 50, 80, because those charges are invisible. They don't feel like choices anymore. They just happen. And this is the part that most people miss. The stress you feel about small purchases isn't always about the small purchases. It's a signal. It's your brain telling you that something about your financial situation feels unstable, that there's not enough margin, that any mistake could matter. And when you're living close to your limit emotionally, not just financially, even a $4 coffee becomes a representation of everything that feels out of control. That's not irrational. That's actually your instincts working correctly. The problem is that the instinct is pointed at the wrong target. Because the real pressure isn't the coffee, it's the system you're inside. Expenses that grow quietly every year, fixed costs that feel non-negotiable, a paycheck that arrives and disappears before you've made a single real decision with it. The feeling of spending $8 carefully while $800 leaves your account automatically every month without a second thought, that asymmetry is the real problem, not your discipline, not your habits, not your willpower around small purchases. The architecture of how your money moves is designed to make the big costs invisible and the small costs feel like your only point of control. So what do you actually do with this? You flip the scrutiny. You stop interrogating the coffee and start interrogating the silence. The things leaving your account that you never consciously chose. The costs that crept up over time and became invisible. The fixed expenses that stopped feeling like decisions. That's where the real leverage is. Not in skipping the $8, in understanding why the $800 disappears without friction. Here's the uncomfortable question. If you removed every small purchase from your life right now, would you actually feel better financially? Or would the same money quietly find somewhere else to go? Because if the answer is no, then it was never really about the coffee. If you want to understand how money actually moves and why the system is built the way it is, subscribe. This is Hughie Capital.